responsible environment that spells care.
To thank our committee for all the hard work and energy in putting today's program on together. It's always a fabulous event, and it takes a lot of hands. So anyway, we're really grateful to have everybody's involvement. I think, Adam, are you in the back? Where are you? Okay, yeah, there you go. So you'll see Adam Gracia, our deputy director, just new to CARE in July. He's doing an amazing job. So glad to have him. And you probably had, maybe you've spoken with, he was out and about and encouraging attendance, and he's done a lot to put the program together. And so very, very happy to have Adam, and you'll be seeing him buzzing by a lot today. So I'd like to thank our hosts, the 204, for being here. We had our CARE Day here in the spring, and we knew it was a fabulous location and it's a great venue, so we're really pleased to be here. Thank you to Three Fins Coffee and Catherine Bieri, who provided this coffee. We always love to have the events and have them sponsor the coffee because it's amazing. So we appreciate that. We were sponsored also by Open Water, provided Mass Food Association. Our gold sponsors are Better Earth, and if you haven't seen Josh in the cafeteria, he's got some products that he could share with you. There's Josh over there waving, so make sure you get over to talk to him. We are grateful for Cape Cod 5 Foundation for our sponsorship. And our platinum sponsor this year, they sponsored us last year, is CMRK, and I'm going to invite Peter up to just say a few words and a warm welcome.
Thank you so very much for allowing me to come up. I have been told to keep it short and sweet, which, if any of my Irish compadres are out there, is not easily done. But I will say thank you so very much to everyone being here. We are absolutely thrilled and honored once again this year to be members and to support an organization such as this. CMRK, for those of you who don't know, we live in the circular recycling of textiles, small household items, and things of the like. We are always lovely and so thrilled to be down here. We work with a lot of the communities down here already, local businesses, and from our standpoint, the work that is being done in this room not only extends for this year and next, but for our future generations as they come up as well. So keeping that in mind, thank you all so very much. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Adam. And we look forward to hopefully another great event this year. Thank you.
Thanks again to you and your family and your staff. We're really, really grateful to have your support. It means a lot. So in addition to a warm welcome, I'd like to just give you a little bit of history. We have a lot of new faces in the audience today, which we're so grateful for. But this all kind of came about in 5 years ago in 2018, after doing some collaborations and some conversations with Center for Coastal Studies. Jesse Meckling and I were talking, and it was like, well, we have all these like-minded organizations within the community, and wouldn't it be more effective if we brought everyone together and tried to work collaboratively to find our solutions to plastic pollution and litter? And Meg Morris from Cape Cod Anti-Litter Coalition was looking at doing something similar. So the three organizations teamed up together, and 5 years ago, we held our first event. We were at the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History. We invited nonprofits, municipalities, and for-profit businesses. We worked together collaboratively to kind of come up with an idea or address what were the key issues that we wanted to accomplish, and we created working groups. We initially met twice a year, so we met in the spring and the fall. And throughout COVID, we continued to meet, some were in person and some were virtually. We included programs on composting, how to respond to recent water bottle bans, a messaging initiative, destination stewardship, and addressing public litter on our roadways. So we introduced the Take Care Cape Cod campaign that we brought from Lake Tahoe. to provide a Cape-wide messaging campaign, aided by the efforts of Christine Shreves from the Wellfleet Recycling Committee and Stephanie Murphy from Hui Sea Grant. A compostable serviceware guide was created. And the serviceware guide was really kind of instrumental and key to what led CARE to apply for a NOAA grant this past year. And earlier in the year, we were awarded a NOAA grant, a 3-year program through the Woods Hole Sea Grant. And the grant is to address the problem of single-use plastics used in tourism, food-based hospitality and experience businesses. So that means in addition to restaurants, we'll be reaching out to waterfront food vendors, ferry boats, charter boats, ocean-based operators and the like that contribute to marine debris, especially during our heavy tourism season. So the objectives of the grant is to build upon our existing partnerships, to provide education, and really to help develop the capability and the capacity for solutions. And the timing, as many of you know, couldn't be better. It was somewhat serendipitous that in Yarmouth and in Harwich, there have been bylaws that were passed that will take place or go into effect next September that will ban the use of takeout single-use plastic containers and silverware. And also just with the proliferation of single-use disposable food containers as a result of the pandemic and the fact that many restaurants didn't go back to using reusables if they did within their businesses, it's a really key and timely topic. So several weeks ago, some of you may have seen a serviceware survey. That was kind of the first step that we wanted to kind of get, what's the baseline and find out from you what it is that needed to be addressed. We are grateful for the Chambers of Commerce who distributed that serviceware survey. And it is, if you didn't fill it out and you are part of that, if you represent a food service business, we have a QR code which we can show you later on how you can participate. But we got some interesting information. And what you told us was that businesses lack a general awareness about sustainable serviceware, what to buy, where to buy it, best practices for implementation. We discovered there were misconceptions related to cost, product quality. Many of you didn't know that there actually was a compostable serviceware or a composting company that could take your serviceware. And you'll hear from them later on this morning. So we got some really great information. And a key component of the grant is to build upon the coalition to really bring organizations together, not just food service businesses, but to really bring the community together to work together to find solutions. So we're counting on all of you. This is just the first step. We really want to engage you. We'll be telling you more during the lunch and having a chance for conversation. But we really need, it's not, like I said, it's just not food service businesses. I mean, it's like we need the towns, we need the municipalities, we need the DPWs, we need the compost companies, we need the businesses that rely on the tourism, for their economy. So we're counting on all of you to be involved. Like I say, stay tuned for more details. We'll be discussing some of that over lunch. But I'm not going to go on any longer. I'm going to introduce our next presenter, Stephanie Murphy from Woods Hole Sea Grant. She's the Senior Communications Specialist, and she's our partner on the grant and also a past stewardship recipient. So I welcome Stephanie to come on up and tell you, why is this important?
Thank you, Jill. Okay, where's Adam? All right, I've got some slides, so while Adam's getting that together, I'll just give you a little bit of background. I'm Stephanie Murphy. I'm with Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution's Sea Grant program. Sea Grant is a NOAA-funded program, and we're part of a national network of sea grants that are based in states that have coastlines or Great Lakes. So there's 34 Sea Grant programs around the country, and Massachusetts is a little different. We've got 2 Sea Grants. Most states have 1, but we've got 1 at Woods Hole and 1 at MIT. So we do lots of work in the coastal environment, aquaculture, coastal erosion work, floodplain work, and we're also involved in marine debris projects. Adam, can I just go ahead and advance?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if I can. Here we go. Okay. So my collaboration with CARE started after their first summit, as Jill described, working on the compostable serviceware guide with Kristine Copley at Wellfleet Recycling Committee. And through that, I learned a lot about alternative products that restaurants and food businesses can use to replace plastic. I also work on a number of other marine debris projects, and including the shrink wrap recycling project with Kari Parcell from the county and Phil Goddard from the town of Bourne. We run that program together with now 6 towns across the Cape, and have been doing that program for about 10 years. Through that work, I've learned a lot about plastic, like the quantities of plastic we produce here on Cape Cod, as well as a lot of the challenges we have in recycling it. So all of this is to say, it comes to bear on this project with Jill, just knowing a little bit more than I knew probably 4 or 5 years ago about plastic. Today, I'm going to talk through a bit of the context for why we're concerned about plastic. I'm going to take about 10 minutes to go through some background. There's going to be a lot of numbers, which I'm hoping I will not overwhelm people with. And ultimately, we want to have a positive feeling about this, that we're working towards solutions. But we're going to have to travel through a little bit of a story of plastic here. So I'm going to kind of go through that, why it's a concern here on the Cape, and then some of the political, social, and scientific landscape for dealing with plastic. We all know plastics have a lot of positive benefits for our society. It's helped us, in many, many sectors: medicine, construction, food packaging, even sports. And many businesses depend on plastic, and we all do, for our day-to-day workflows and life flows. So for businesses, I think the idea of reducing plastic takeout containers can feel very threatening. And, when businesses are just working hard to make a buck. So, as I said, we all use these plastics on a day-to-day basis. They're lightweight, they're flexible, they're inexpensive, and they're convenient. So for many of us and for a lot of businesses, the thinking is like, so what's the problem? Why are we trying to reduce the amount of plastic that we're using? So while we think about plastic as a way to keep things safe and clean, plastics are a result of extraction of fossil fuels, coal, gas, oil, which can be a really dirty enterprise. There are health impacts along the way that occur at every stage in the production process. And that process can involve mixing a lot of different chemicals that have a lot of toxicity. Their production contaminates the air, water, and land, and can be harmful to workers at those facilities and to the residents living nearby. So you may ask yourself why I've included a picture of South America here, but fossil fuels come into play here in the production of plastics, and therefore greenhouse gases are an issue. So plastic production is responsible for about 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and that's the equivalent of about what the country of Brazil produces. So we've got Brazil. While we've gotten really good at producing an incredible variety of plastics, it turns out we're not really very good at managing it. Each year, about 8 million tons of plastic ends up in the ocean as mismanaged waste. So it can be hard to envision 8 million tons of anything. So that's why I have a picture of the Great Pyramid of Giza here. It would be the equivalent of about 1,300 Great Pyramids getting of plastic waste in the ocean every year. So 8 million tons is a huge amount of plastic, but even still, that's just a small percent of what's actually generated. Since the 1950s, production has increased exponentially, and so has the waste. In 2016, the US ranked as the top generator of plastic waste, with a total of 42 million tons of plastic waste. Oops, here we go. The equivalent of more than 7 million adult elephants. So it's just, the quantities are kind of staggering, and I just wanted to give a sense of the big global picture of what we're talking about. That's just the US production in a year. And the US population is less than 5% of the global population. So if everyone lived the way we do, our problems would be even greater. But this also brings us back to why we're here today, to talk about single-use plastics. Unfortunately, the largest portion of our current use of plastic is single-use plastic. So by definition, that's something that's just used once and thrown away, and it could be used maybe for a minute or two. It's an iced latte or what have you, you know, and then it's used and discarded. So it'll last in the landfill for tens or hundreds of years. So about 75% of all the waste that all the plastic waste we produce ends up in the landfill. And we're running out of places to put it. So what I'm showing here, it's a small screen and it is a data slide, but the important thing to notice here is the trajectory. So in the graph here, the left side is the 1960s, the right side is sort of current day, it's probably about 5 years old. But this is our plastic production and what happens to the plastic we produce. So the blue triangle that you see is the landfill. The sort of red piece of that is what's combusted for energy, and then the green part is what's recycled. So we've got a lot of plastic that we're producing, and only a small fraction of it is getting recycled. Our landfills are running out of space. By 2030, all but one of our state's landfills is projected to be closed. So again, we recycle, and recycling is really good, but it's not gonna get us out of this problem. We produce way too much plastic to recycle our way out of it. Other issues with recycling are some of the confusion that people feel, and we're working on that, trying to help people understand what can be recycled when and where. But the other big thing about recycling is actually finding a market for it, and that's something we've encountered with our shrink wrap program. Recycling is a business, and it relies on supply and demand. So if there is not enough demand for recycled plastic, there's really no market for it. And we've struggled, Kari, Phil and I, very hard to find markets for our recycled boat shrink wrap. And the dollars in a lot of ways don't really add up. So we need to increase the demand for recycled plastic, and then we can probably recycle more. But as it currently stands, virgin plastic is a lot less expensive in some cases than using recycled plastic. So it just kind of sort of perpetuates itself. But so it's not all, that's the doom and gloom part. And, you know, not to be a downer, because we're here today to find solutions. And I guess the good part of this is that we're starting to recognize that plastic is a global problem. It's not just us here on Cape Cod producing too much or using too much, it's everywhere. And in March of last year, 175 countries agreed to begin negotiation on an international legally binding agreement to address the full life cycle of plastics. So that has progressed to the point now where they're working on and have a first draft on a UN treaty on plastic pollution. So we're beginning to deal with this issue globally. In addition, in the US, the National Academies of Sciences put out a report last year with the very blunt conclusion that the US needs to produce less plastic. We need to use less plastic, produce less, and do more to prevent it from escaping the waste management systems. So, you know, we've got the UN, the National Academies of Sciences, some of the most prestigious bodies on our planet saying we need to do something about this, and they're starting to deal with it at that level. We're also dealing with it in terms of policy. There's proposals in the Congress, in the Massachusetts State House, and also, as you all know, in various towns around Cape Cod. So we're looking for solutions on that policy level. And we're also looking for solutions in the science world. Scientists across the globe are working on this. And at the Oceanographic Institution in Woods Hole, we've got dozens of projects going on looking at plastics from a variety of angles. And we have an initiative on just dealing with microplastics, which are the tiny pieces of plastic that result from the breakdown of larger pieces of plastic. And sometimes they're very, very small. They can be in the air, water, land, and they're a major issue. But so we're looking for solutions there. And as Jill mentions, the National Sea Grant Office is funding projects looking into alternative products for takeout containers. There's a project up in Maine looking to use corn stalks and corn cobs, even lobster shells to create packaging that's more nature friendly, and it will break down. So we've got a lot of good hope on the horizon, and it's great that all of these realms are sort of coming together, coalescing around this issue of plastics. So it's the international, federal, state, local, but it's also individuals, and I think that's what brings a lot of us here today. Clearly, this is a problem that requires change at every level. Businesses and our community will benefit from working to identify replacement products, and that will have a less damaging effect on the environment. The facts can be overwhelming, but as individuals, we make choices every day, and small changes can really make a difference. That's why we're here. We need to bring awareness to our choices and recognize that they have an impact on the global environment and global health. And our leadership on this issue is going to protect our environment here on the Cape, and will also become a model for other communities, not just on the Cape and in Massachusetts, but everywhere. So that's what I have for you. Happy to talk to folks during breaks, and really looking forward to learning with you all today as we move forward. Thanks. And I guess it's my job to introduce our next speaker, who is Kristine Copley. She's here from Falmouth. She is a member of the Solid Waste Advisory Board, and she's also serving on Falmouth's new committee to look at reducing the use of single-use plastics.
Good morning, everyone. Just we'll wait for my presentation to come up. Yes. Yeah, that'll do it. Thank you. I can advance the slides. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristine Copley, and I'm from far, far away in Falmouth. It was an hour to get here today, and I know you guys don't come out that way often, but it's a nice place to visit. Last spring, a Falmouth resident presented an article to town meeting proposing to ban all plastics in our community. He also gave a really compelling and educational presentation about plastics And he had a very attentive group saying, wow, we really do need to get rid of plastics. And someone said, it's a no-brainer, like we just got to get rid of them. And I think the town was ready to vote at that meeting to reduce plastics or eliminate plastics completely. Fortunately, town meeting said, let's take a little pause on this and really understand what this challenge is. And so they recommended to the select board to create a plastic reduction committee. And we are a 7-member committee. Our names are here. And this committee is 2 members of local restaurants, a member of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, a member of the Board of Health, and then 3 members of the community, one including the petitioner of the original article. So we've been meeting since August, twice a month, and trying to get our hands around what this means to the community and how we can both reduce/eliminate plastics within our community, keep our businesses still alive. I'm very thankful that our town created such a committee. It's been very interesting, educational, respectful, no drama. People of different backgrounds and passions, are all really working together to try to understand what this means. The presentation that I was to give you today was the same presentation that we gave to the select board as an update on October 2nd. And we've changed our tune again. So there's been an update since where we thought we were heading, even in this month's time, because it's just not a simple solution. So literally, this presentation, when I kind of get into it, is going to be updates since then. So what I'm really looking forward to is what happens after I stop talking. So that we can share with you what we've learned, and you can share with us what we've learned, so that we can go back to our Board of Health with a set of rules and regulations that make sense for everybody. How about this one? How about this one? The right hand. I like the voice from the back of the curtain. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is our mission statement. So we're trying to reduce or eliminate the use of plastics. When we talk about food establishments here, we're talking about restaurants, but we're also talking about processed foods. So anything that gets packaged or and then brought off site. A point to note here is that Falmouth has already eliminated plastic bags. We've already eliminated styrofoam. We've already eliminated water bottles, and we've already gotten rid of the little plastic nips. So we are a community that's not afraid to make changes in our community that are beneficial to our environment. So easily, I'm going to go back one, I think. Easily the first way that we can eliminate or reduce plastics is to go from disposable to reusable. So as much as possible, if we can encourage restaurants to not use throwaways, but can actually, clean their tableware and reuse them, makes sense. We also want to encourage people to bring their own containers when they're doing doggy bags. That would make sense. We love the whole Island Eats idea out in the vineyard, which is a private company that's partnered with a bunch of restaurants and, with the model of, eat, return, repeat. So if we could have something like that in Falmouth, it would be great, but somebody's got to do that. Here's where we've been spending all of our time and really, what we're here to talk about today. We've done a lot of research on this. We've looked at what's happening within other places on the Cape. We've been looking at what's going on in Nantucket. We look at what's going on in other places in Massachusetts. We've looked at Bill 509, which is in Mass right now, California, and even what's going on in Canada, which is super progressive. What we've noticed is that all of these places that are successful in reducing their plastic have a solid waste advisory ecosystem that includes composting, a composting infrastructure. And there's where the silence is, right? So we've spent a lot of time talking about PLAs because that seems to be the industry solution to petroleum-based plastics. And there's a lot of, the packaging companies are all getting lots of heat from everyone now because we know that plastics are bad for the environment, and they're turning to these PLAs, we'll also call them bioplastics or compostable plastic, which sounds like super good, like we love compostable, and we love seeing a little green leaf on something. And this is also a revenue opportunity for them too, because they can charge a premium for something that's green. So it's not all just self-serving them looking for a better solution for us. But when we bring it down to our level, we know that PLAs are not necessarily the solution, because PLAs, although they're compostable, they're not compostable in our landfills. And so they're hundreds, thousands, Stephanie, years for them to break down in our landfills, and they're emitting methane gas. So they're not such a great solution for us. And without composting availability on a town level that's not private, we don't have this temperature, water, oxygen way to break down these PLAs. So where the industry is heading and what we have today are inconsistent, incongruent, incompatible. So on my next slide, get rid of the call. This was our draft regulation back in October. And we said, we're going to get rid of all plastics, we're going to get rid of all PLAs, and we're just going to exception the heck out of anything that you can't readily, easily replace. And then things changed. And so the way that we're feeling right now is that this is an impossible for us to implement right now. We'd get too much pushback from the business community. We looked at what it would mean for the national chains that operate businesses in our communities. You take a chain like McDonald's, and McDonald's right now is using number 5s on all of their plasticware, but they have to buy from their own supply chain, and their supply chains don't have acceptable solutions. And so do we do exceptions for McDonald's, but then make our smaller businesses stay compliant? So now we're not creating a level playing field. That was one of the things that brought us away from this solution. And where we are heading now is a regulation that says that all serviceware must be disposable foodware that's paper, wax, wood, or BPI compostable that are not PLA. And we're going into the not PLA because we don't have a good way for composting, and that those PLAs are also pollutants to our existing recycling stream because they look and act and feel like regular plastic or petroleum plastic. So we're saying you need to be compostable or BPI compostable that's not PLA, and then there is an allowance. And this might be the want for all of us that are trying to eliminate plastics. But our allowance is that if there's not feasible solutions, then we will allow 1, 2, 5s. And so we're failing in our, go big or go home in our recommendation right now. But without a composting solution in place, we feel like we really can't move into something that makes sense for us. We are taking some other small, easily, we call them low-hanging fruits, accessory foodware, so this is mostly utensils. We'll say that no plastic stirrers, no cutlery packets, silverware upon demand only, no black plastics. Take-home containers must go into that same category of being disposable, so and BPI certifiable, non-PLA. So this is kind of where we are right now, and it's we really were hoping to make some very big changes, but we're saying we want to, but our infrastructure isn't in place for us to do so at this point. And so we're trying to do what we can today and push really hard for a solution that would give us, townwide, but also Cape-wide industrial composting. Also in our town, we have a solid waste and recycling coordinator that's a part-time position. So we're pushing hard to make that something that's full-time. But I want to leave you with a story that is a hopeful story. The member of our solid waste advisory committee that owns a restaurant came in with good intentions of understanding what our problem was and how it might affect his business. And this is a guy who's got a 40-year-old like fish and chips kind of business, and and we all have these kinds of restaurants that are they're takeout, picnic tables, and eat in also, and everything is disposable. Bring it to the trash can when you're done, kind of place. And he's been going to trade shows for years, and he's been buying PLA because he said, I want to do my part. I'm a good citizen of this community. And so he's been buying the little green label thing, thinking like, I'm doing compostables, I'm a good guy, right? And then he comes to this meeting and he realizes that, he's not necessarily being such a great guy because he's creating more problems in our community with what he's generating. And so what he's done after learning about all this is he's made changes to his business that still allow him to run his business. But what he's done is he's doubled down on what is plastic and what can he bring back to paper. And then he's also gone back to recyclables and not polluting our recycle stream by his PLAs. He's asking his cashiers to say, do you want silverware with that or not? And most people are like, nah, I'm bringing it home, I prefer my own. And now he's considering adding dishwashers to his restaurant. And the dishwashers will be for silverware, and then his beer cups and his wine glasses. So although we're not promoting big changes right now, it's, what Stephanie said early on, small changes. We're trying to make small changes. He's made a small change just by being educated. So there's my hopeful story that we can make progress. And for us, what we're seeing in Falmouth is like, we really need an industrial composting facility because we can't rely on, the private sector to deliver that to us in the quantity that we need here. So that's my presentation.
Thanks, Kristine. As I think, we're hearing that this is, fortunately, we have a 3-year grant and it's a learning process for all of us. So baby steps, but we've invited Kari Parcell to come on up. Kari, if you want to come up. And so to hear from a regional and a Cape perspective, what's being done for the county and how can we all encourage some of the things that we need as solutions and resources. So Kari has, many of you probably know her. Kari was on our board for a period of time. She's the waste reduction coordinator for Barnstable County Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, represents Barnstable County and Mass DEP, and she's very knowledgeable, and we're interested and excited to have her here today. So thanks, Kari.
Thank you, Jill. Hello. I see a lot of faces. This is great, and if you haven't heard my name, hopefully you will now. So as Jill said, I work for Mass DEP in Barnstable County. My role primarily is to work with municipalities and to find waste diversion programs so that we keep valuable resources out of our landfills and out of incinerators. So that's my primary role with DEP and Barnstable County. So I'm here to talk about waste bans, updates on possible infrastructure for commercial composting, as was mentioned with the PLAs and other compostable plastics as a possible solution. as well as a grant program that has existed with DEP. They're taking a pause and looking at it in 2024. Everybody can hear me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Get those in the back. So what is a waistband? They started in the 1990s with materials that are toxic to our environment, things like mercury, and it moved to basic recyclables like your glass, tin, plastic, bottles, jugs, things like that. Then we started to move towards other material streams, white goods, which are like appliances, household appliances, whole tires, and then we started to move towards a food waste ban on a commercial level. That was in 2014, and it started at 1 ton or more generated per week. So if you were an institution, a facility, something like that, and you generated 2 tons of food waste in 1 week, you had to find a way to divert it from a landfill or a waste energy facility. As we move forward, we just passed a new threshold for food waste, as well as a new waste ban on mattresses and textiles. So why do we have the waste bans? It's to keep these types of divertibles out of the waste stream. It also produces millions of jobs and gives us millions of dollars back into our economy, saves energy, as well as greenhouse gas emissions. I cannot see these slides because I'm blind as a bat, so I'm going to try and remember. I should have brought my laptop out here for notes. But basically, when you look at our waste stream, there's about 5 million tons of trash that either leaves. Oh, you're amazing. Thank you. We were just talking about the optometrist a little bit ago. So households, businesses, institutions around the Commonwealth, we produce about 6 million tons. And if you think of organics like food waste and leaf and yard waste, you're talking around 25% of the waste stream for food waste, and you're talking about 14 for leaf and yard waste. Leaf and yard waste is a banned material. Food waste is at a commercial level. So back in November 2022, so just last year, the food waste threshold went down from 2,000 pounds or 1 ton per week generated to 1,000 pounds or half ton per week generated. So if you look at that 25 and 14%, that's 36% of organics that can be diverted and put right back into our environment, which is about 2.1 million tons out of that 6 million tons. Is it 6 million or 5? Sorry, 6 million. So again, it's 36% of the waste stream is organics, and that's something that is extremely valuable as a compostable solution. I already mentioned the new waste threshold for commercial. So it's not affecting you at home as a resident the same way as, say, your Coca-Cola can. Technically, it is illegal to put that into your trash can. I have a feeling none of you would do that in this room. So moving on from that, I want to address a feasibility study that I worked on with the Cape Cod Commission and the county administrator and myself and a few other people on the steering committee. Back in 2021, we closed up a feasibility study with 2 vendors. We looked at the cost-benefit analysis of out-of-state trash transport hauling, whether it's truck or by rail. And we also looked at divertibles, so recyclables, things like those textiles, mattresses, hard to recycle materials, hazardous waste and things like that. So there was 3 conclusions from that. Did I go forward? No, I'm staring at mine. I'm staring at Adam's phone instead. There we go. There's a study. So we wrapped it up. So we did those cost-benefit analysis. We looked at these hard to recycle divertible materials. And the recommendations were to focus on C&D, which is construction demolition, which is also part of my wheelhouse. And then organics, which is the food waste and the leaf and yard waste. So the recommendation was to look at 3 sub-regional facilities for commercial composting. The focus right now is Joint Base Cape Cod. This is a potential site. This is not something that's set in stone. So don't go home and say, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, because we're still we're still talking. I've been appointed the person to look up grant funding to hire a program manager to be able to do some of the hard to do stuff that I just simply don't have time for. The 3 regional sites were Upper Cape or Joint Base Cape Cod, the potential site of the anaerobic digester that the town of Yarmouth has been working on for several years. I believe they just got another grant through the Department of Energy. And then Lower Cape. And again, this is about land space and land use capacity and the willingness. We all know NIMBY in this room, right? Not in my backyard. So for 2023, the phase is to begin the conversations with Joint Base Cape Cod, which we have been. Commissioner Mark Forrest has been an advocate for this, as well as the town of Falmouth. We're also looking at Sandwich and Mashpee as part of that, and Bourne as part of the 4 Upper Cape communities that it would help serve. I get the question, well, why can't all of Cape do it? Maybe we can. And then, yep, I'm on the right slide. So I have sent in some pre-grant applications. I've looked at other grants. I've had some conversations. We really need to find funding to hire somebody to do all the laid work that, again, I just simply don't have time to do. And then we want to look at that partnership and coalition building, as well as outreach and education, because without their outreach and education to our businesses, our communities, the folks and the residents that would do this, we're really going to be kind of nowhere. It's like that three-legged stool that Alan Robinson talks about all the time. And he's a member of the Falmouth SWAC, the Solid Waste Recycling Committee. So skipping past that, because Jill told me I'm on a tight 10 minutes. So use and availability of micro grants. So this is something that began a few years ago under Mass DEP. It's a mini grant for up to $5,000. It's for nonprofits, for-profits, regional entities, and potentially eligible municipalities for reuse, repair, and waste reduction projects. These grants, like I said, are up to $5,000. They're currently not available. They're putting some updates in 2024, and they're looking at the grant program itself so they can revamp it with maybe a new amount that can be possibly awarded, looking at new particular projects and new expansion of those projects. So that's a new criteria stream, if you will. They want to change some of the guidelines and establish new application guidelines from the previous years that it's been in order to. Has anybody in this room had a micro grant? One person? Fantastic. Yay. One of our next speakers got one too. Oh, she raised her hand. I think, no, okay, no, Jill said no. So there's 2 in the room, that's great. So that's coming up, so stay tuned for that. Again, I'm Kari Parcell, I work for Mass DEP, Barnstable County. I serve the Cape and Islands, which is 23 municipalities. Some people call me the recycling guru, some people call me the content expert. I like to call myself stressed. But anyway, feel free to reach out. You can find me on the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension website. You can ask anybody in the room how to get a hold of me. I try to be insanely responsive if possible. And I'd like to thank Jill and Kara for having me here. I can go on and on and on about all these things. So with that, I will wrap up.
So I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions. We can, either for Kari or the other 2 previous speakers, are there any quick questions before we move on to our panel? Corey's going to bring you the microphone. And who is this for? For Kari?
Yeah, you just mentioned, I'm talking about Dennis, Cape Cod Resiliency Committee. You just mentioned construction. Does that extend to the landscaping industry? Because we have so many plastic pots going through all the whatever places. Either it's construction or it's just at the supermarket, all little plastic pots and everything.
Yeah, so ag plastics are difficult. We've been trying to commingle them with the boat shrink wrap recycling program that Stephanie Murphy had mentioned. We've been really lucky with some communities being collection depots for the whole of the Cape. They're not banned items, so unfortunately it's not a huge focus. We'd like it to be a better focus. With the plastic bag bans, you've seen fewer and fewer grocery stores have those little bins that collect, plastic bags for groceries, or, say like when you pick up toilet paper, it's wrapped in that plastic. A bread bag, for example, or even a produce bag, you used to be able to drop those off. Some of the grocery stores have stopped doing that because of the consistency that comes through. They need enough to send it out to markets were mentioned earlier. I hope that helps to answer a little bit. Yeah, something right there.
Hi, Irene Shekovich from Mashpee Environmental Coalition. Do your regulations apply to trash pickup companies, We have so many people in our community who use private
Private
Uh,
companies, and we're wondering what happens with them and recycling.
Yeah, so the wastebands do apply to them. It's a different branch of DEP than I'm in. I'm in a municipal service department. There is a regulatory department, so I'm assuming the question's being asked because of non-compliance with, recyclables being within the containers. There is a branch, so I can send you that way as a liaison. They do have inspectors. They are expecting to hire, I believe, 7 more people in that department for that reason, but they are absolutely beholden to the wastebands, every single one of us individually as well as haulers.
Thank you.
Don't be shy, I was real quick so we can get questions in.
I could just ask, have you considered using the federal land performer base up in Truro?
That has not been discussed at this moment.
A lot of empty land up there.
I'm sorry?
There's a lot of empty land up there.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I've had the winks, with different transfer stations being like, you've got enough space to kind of throw this in. I had a really positive conversation about 4 years ago with Brewster Sand and Gravel. They had some space in Eastham that they were considering using as a commercial composting site. Unfortunately, that land was for sale at the time that the owner had approached me and became nervous that if they turned it into a composting space that it wouldn't sell because of the whole NIMBY factor. Yeah.
Any updates on the Yarmouth anaerobic digester project?
Yeah, so I actually get that question a lot. I don't know quite what's going on with that. I do know that I believe in the past year, they did receive about a $500,000.
Roby's here.
Yeah, Roby's here. She knows just about as much as I do. But they did receive a grant from the Department of Energy. Hopefully that will, we don't want to cannibalize by putting these sub-regional sites in. So, depending on how that project works itself out, hopefully that will be a site for commercial composting. And again, that'll address the single-use plastics with PLAs and compostable plastics as a solution.
Thanks, Karen.
All right. You about to back to school?
Creating a responsible environment that spells care.